Good afternoon or evening, depending on what coast you're on, and welcome to an extra special episode of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I have one half of the River City 93 podcast, Yogi McLovin, on the line with me today, and we're going to talk about all things Richmond Kickers. For those of you who don't know, the Kickers are one of the oldest professional franchises currently operating in the U.S. all the way since 1993. They currently play in USL League One. Welcome to the show, Yogi.
Hey, how you doing, man? So real quick, I just want you to know, well, the audience to know that my real name is Elliot Barr. My nickname is Yogi. I got that when I was playing football my high school year, my senior year at high school. So I just go by Yogi McLovin on Twitter, but my real name is Elliot Barr.
All right, and do you want to go by Elliot or Yogi on the show?
I'll go by Yogi. That's cool.
All right, and just to tell people a little bit about your podcast, you go on the Richmond Kickers, and you recently had a fan call-in episode, and you've been doing some things like that. So tell us a little bit about your show, how long you've been doing it for, and things like that, and where we could find it at.
Oh, most definitely. Well, the name of the show is called River City 93. We are a supporter-ran podcast, so we're not influenced by the front office or anything like that. Like, it's 100% supporter-ran. It's me and my very good friend, Shanir Duran II. And we started the show, I want to say, maybe a year ago in March. We've been around for about a year. It really just came out of our idea. It's very hard to find information on lower league soccer teams, and especially if you're not one of the more popular ones, it's very hard to find information. So I wanted to, pretty much just have a resource for people that were interested in the Richmond Kickers or want to know more about the team can definitely come to it, because I'm a diehard fan of the Richmond Kickers, but I can't lie to you. Outside of going to games, I couldn't name you a whole bunch of players on the team because how much influx was in the team and who was good, who was bad. But actually during the podcast, it made me more aware of the team. I'm a lot more critical of the team than I was in past years. But we do a whole bunch of things. Right now with no soccer going on, we're actually doing a rewatch of some of our more important games throughout the club's history. We started off unofficially with the 95 U.S. Open Cup against El Paso Patriots. We just did one with Richmond Kickers in an international friendly against Swansea City. And we're about to do another one with Richmond Kickers versus Sacramento FC on Wednesday. So we do shows like that. We also do pregame and postgame analysis. We do player interviews, front office interviews, and we do fan engagement pieces, listener question shows, and also like our co-op shows with like you guys and For the Culture and everyone else. So yeah, you can find our podcast anywhere where you listen to podcasts at. We also have an Instagram page, River City 93. It's the same as our Twitter page.
Yeah, and I subscribed to you on Apple and left you guys a review earlier, and that's really important. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, find River City 93, leave these guys a 5-star review because they do a great job. And one thing that I kind of wanted to start off with is, of course, the season is on hold. USL League One, they didn't even get a first game started. So we really kind of have last year to look at in terms of stats and things like that. But one of the first things I wanted to talk to you about, and this is something that our listeners in England will probably be really interested in. Of course, in the U.S., we don't have any pro-rel. And the Kickers last year actually elected to drop down from the second to the third division. Explain that decision a little bit and how that works and why.
It's more of a financial decision. Of course, when you're talking about pro-rel, when you go up, you get this financial boost. And when you're kind of going down, you're playing more clubs that are closer to you on your same level financially. Somewhat. So you think about it that way. Here in America, since there is no pro-rel, you kind of have the option of self-promotion where, if you want to go into MLS or get into the USL structure, UPSL, NPSL, that means you have the money to make it happen. You have the money to pay your staff, you have the money to pay your players, and you can make it happen. You're kind of more financially ready to take on that challenge. You're kind of like, all right, well, we might not have won a trophy here, but financially and the backing that we have, we're ready to go up. And the self-relegation is more in terms of we're like, all right, we don't really have the means to make things happen like we want to. If we stay around, we can close shop. We don't want that to happen, so we're going to go a division down. You really don't see it happen a lot. You don't see it at all between, MLS teams going down, USL. More in USL structure or like a USL 2 team might decide like, hey, we'll go UPSL or NPSL, wherever that is. But for our case, it was more of a financial decision. And for those who don't know, Richmond Kickers were
more than anything.
Yes.
And a great quote by Zlatan was when he said that in the U.S., everybody has to make money. In other countries, only the top few teams make money. It really is set up here so that even the smallest clubs can potentially turn a profit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Richmond Kickers kind of based itself on. We're known for developing youth. Like, we are a true youth club. Before 2019, we were owned by our youth club. That's how we were paying our player wages, our coaches, how we were paying for everything. I actually played in the Richmond Kickers Academy between the grade of 3rd grade to 6th grade. That's how long I played in the Richmond Kickers Academy. And then, obviously being a big boy in the Deep South, they're kind of like, all right, we're going to put you on the offensive line in football and make you do that.
And it's a very new thing for there to even be academies in this country.
Yes. So what happened was it just got to a point where we just financially just couldn't do it. The travel was starting to become too much. And the playing style it wasn't really there anymore. We couldn't really compete at the top echelon or even at the mid-table anymore. The last 2 years, we were mid to bottom table at best. And then a former player, Rob Ucrop, came together with a couple of his he went to the University of Davidson, where Steph Curry went to, and kind of put together a buying party. They bought the Richmond Kickers, and they've been our ownership party for the last 2 years. It was kind of skeptical at first because, this is the first time our club has really had owners. So we didn't know how it was going to go. It could have gone one or two ways, but so far it's been going in the positive direction. I got to say, I'm kind of happy with the owners that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that it was a great move for you guys to really just kind of say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to try to be the most successful we can at this level, and then, maybe move on from there. And, 5 years from now, maybe the team is in a position to move back up. But one thing I really did want to kind of go back to is some of the history. And now the Kickers, I believe, are the second to the last non-MLS team to win the U.S. Open Cup.
Yes. So we're the last. Let me get this straight. We're the last.
Rochester was the last, and then
last team to win it with MLS teams in it. They're the last kind of like not lower league team to win it. We're the last team to win it with non-MLS. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it was
mistaken, but I think it's somewhere that way.
Or was when you guys won that?
95. So it was us and DC United 96. I think Rochester was 97, if I remember right. So I think we were the last one before MLS.
Yeah. That's for those that don't know, that's kind of the U.S. equivalent to the FA Cup. And that's a competition that goes back all the way to, I think, 1913. And I think actually this year they've had to at least postpone it. This is going to be the first time they haven't had it in over 100 years.
Yeah, it was. And we were really excited for the matchups that we were going to have because so March 24th was supposed to be the play-in game for our game. It was going to be on April 8th. It was supposed to be between Virginia United and Crystals FC. Last year we played Virginia United, beat them 6-1. And Crystals FC, who the year before that we lost to, they were a semi-pro team from Baltimore that beat the Richmond Kickers and went on to play DC United, I think in the quarterfinals, I believe, or around the 60. I can't quite remember. But there was a lot of fanfare around them. So it was going to be really exciting, that April 8th game that was supposed to be coming up in 2 days. We were supposed to be playing the Crystals and Virginia United. It was going to be a unique atmosphere because both teams have a big fan base down here in Richmond. Virginia United is more up near D.C., Crystals in Baltimore, but there's a couple of fans down here in Richmond for both of those clubs. So it was going to be unique. It was going to be cool.
So I was kind of looking at the 2019 stats, and it seems like Joe Gallardo was your top scorer and top player. Is he back this year?
No, he is not. He's actually the Cubs' first ever transfer fee that we got. We sold him to Real Monarchs, who is the lower league club to Real Salt Lake.
Unfortunately, that means that the Phoenix Rising are going to have to see him this year.
yes. And, he was a great player for us. He kind of came in as an unknown quantity. He came out of the Monterey youth system, Orlando City as well. He was U.S. international, I think, for the U19s or U20s. I can't remember which one exactly. But he was a great player. Attacking mid-roll, can be a second striker. You can even put him out on the wings. He was very creative. Even though he scored 6 or 7 goals, I got to say at least 5 of them were like some of the most creative goals I've ever seen. And he actually scored 2 of them in the same game, the South Georgia game, right around, I think it was either August or September. He had 1 goal he scored from 30 feet out, and he had another goal where he literally walked it through 8 players in South Georgia defense.
I saw he had 25 shots on target out of 47, so that to me, it's a really good percentage because that means more than half the time that he's shooting, it's hitting the target. But I figure, 6 out of 25, there probably had to be some bad luck in there.
Oh, yeah. It was some bad luck in there, too. Our attack last year was not the best. We had 2 older strikers on our team. And not saying anything was wrong. I just think the setup that we initially went with wasn't working. We were trying to do more of the possession and trying to, hold on to the ball. But I think we came in too big-headed. We thought, since, we're the Richmond Kickers, a lot of these teams never played before. We'll take advantage. We'll be the big boys on the block. And truly, to be honest, I think our manager at the time, David Bulow, he even recognized, he was like, it truly is like English League One soccer where it's bully ball. You can't be pretty on the ball. And I think we waited too long and got stuck into that system for too long trying to make it work, where other teams were adjusting to it earlier and playing bully ball. And when we started just high pressing, going at teams and not really caring, that's when kind of results got better. We started scoring a little bit more, but by that time it was too late for us to really make a playoff push.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you would be saying because, in England, I would even say more League Two is when you get into a lot of those teams playing the long ball and the big physical center halves and things like that. And teams, that make the promotion from League Two to League One, the players say that's the biggest difference is once you get to League One. You don't have so many of those teams playing the long ball and the physical game. And so it seems to me that in the U.S. that maybe that separation is between the USL Championship and the USL League One. That being said, it looks like your goalkeeper, Akira Fitzgerald, had a heck of a season. He had 9 clean sheets and his save percentage was almost 70, which is really good. Is he going to be back?
Yes, he is. I believe he's going to be back for the long haul. He was an amazing goalkeeper for us. And I think I said it on our original roster breakdown show of our first couple of episodes. I think that I said that he was going to be the weak link, and I was sadly mistaken, and gladly so. He saved those in multiple games. I think he had 1 game alone where he had 10 saves. He's an amazing goalkeeper. He has a great job.
He saved 73 out of 105 shots. And I like to look at, to me, 60% is a good keeper, 65% is a very good keeper, 70 or better is an elite keeper. He was at 69.5, so he was right on the edge of that elite 70% number.
Yeah, he was. Like I was saying, he does so many great things. His long ball distribution is amazing. There's one game I remember. He what happened? He had the ball, and I think the whole right side of the field was shut down. So instead of him, playing the short ball and putting us under more pressure, he literally pings it across the field, and it lands right on the toe of Joe Gallardo, and Joe Gallardo takes it, and we started playing. But he's an amazing goalkeeper. You would look at him and you would be like, oh, he's a little bit undersized, but his agility, his quickness, even his ability to jump up and get the ball off of crosses is amazing. Like he's an elite keeper. He should be in USL Championship, no doubt. Probably like a backup for MLS club.
I'm looking at those numbers, and I agree. I can't believe that somebody didn't offer you a transfer fee for him, because I mean, I look at the USL Championship, and there's so many clubs that started 5, 6, 7 keepers. And just having consistency of that guy that's going to give you 30 games is huge.
Yeah, and he came from Tampa Bay Rowdy, so he has championship experience. I think the thing about it was, I think he just found comfort in Richmond. And he had a couple of guys behind him last year that, could have started, such as Joe Rice, who is now in New England Revolution system. But yeah, it's his job right now. I don't see anyone taking it from him. But this year, if we have a season, it's next year. The next 2 years is his job.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's a big thing for a lot of guys, is when they get into a place and get comfortable and get those games under their belt. A big team that we follow is Accrington Stanley. We have so many guys that have maybe bounced around with bigger clubs, and then they find a spot where they've got a starting spot at Accrington, and then sometimes we'll ask these guys, the way you're playing, you might look at the championship next year, and a lot of times the answer might be, we as well another year or two logging games, and that sounds like how it might be for Fitzgerald.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's exactly how it is.
All right. Well, kind of moving on from the current players and things, we talked a little bit about the history, but there's some other historic things that you have, and one thing that you guys had been kind of leading up to, I had seen your countdown on Twitter, was the Henny Derby. Tell me about the Henny Derby.
So the Henny Derby is really a rivalry game between us and Fort Madison that started off as a joke that probably became the best known derby in lower league soccer, as some people like to say it. It started off last year between me and this guy named Kyle, who's in Fort Madison. And we were just like, yo, we got to bet something on the game. And I was just like, yo, let's bet a bottle of Hennessy. So we won the first ever Henny Derby, 1-0, off of a Daniel Jackson.
It sounds a lot better than the. I was gonna say it sounds a lot better than the milk they get for winning the Indy 500s. I'll take that bottle of Henny.
Guys, hey, look, when Hennessy is chilled correctly, it's the best drink in the world.
I could argue with that.
And then the second game we played, we lost 1-0 off of, I think, a Christian Diaz goal. I might be mistaken in that. But we lost that one. And then the third one, the one that everyone's really familiar with, Fort Madison came down to Richmond. And it was also our Heritage Night that we were setting up with the Richmond Kickers, kind of doing a tribute night to Black culture here in the city of Richmond and famous Black players of the club. And I invited, Fort Madison down, their supporters groups. We actually had North Carolina FC because one of their players who they remember closely, Connor Tobin, was playing in the game, so they came up. We had so many of U.S. soccer premier writers at the game. Pablo Mara, Jason Davis, the Total Soccer Show guys, Sneeze. It was amazing to have that many people there, for the culture was there as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an average. It was
just an amazing event. I mean, wow.
Oh yeah, like it was a proper. I would say it was my first. I mean, granted, I've been to like hundreds of Richmond Kickers, but that was the first experience I've had of having like that one supporter group going against another supporter group. So it was truly like 90 minutes of each group going at each other, and there was no stopping. It kind of had like one of my friends described it to me. He's from Germany. He was like, "Yo, it's like a lower league. It's almost like Bundesliga 3 kind of atmosphere where it's like the fans are there and that's the only thing you're paying attention to. You don't really care about the soccer. You're just looking at each set of fans and like, who's going to do what? Who's going to do what next? Both teams had tifos. There was a trophy made, so we gave them the trophy at the end of the game. So it was a cool atmosphere. And then going into this year, our first game.
The tifos on Twitter, those were awesome. We'll have to reshare those out. If you could send me those after the show, I'll reshare those tifos out.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And then our first game this year was against Forward Madison. So it was really like we were hyping it up. We were supposed to do a preview show with their podcast, Forwards Backwards, Forward Madison show. And it was going to be all out. It was going to be a whole out show. I think we were going to have a couple of soccer writers down for the game and some good coverage. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But it was going to be unique.
Well, hopefully, we'll get through this. Everybody, be able to stay safe and healthy and stay inside, and then we'll get the schedule going again and get a Henny Derby going. Now, before the Henny Derby, you guys had something that it ran from '96 through 2008, the James River Cup, which was. It looks like the Hampton Mariners was kind of your with that. Tell me a little bit about that James River Cup. Those must have been some great battles too.
So that's a little bit before my time, but I've done my research and kind of went back and talked to some people about it, and they were telling me about it, how there wasn't really a club, it wasn't a real supporter atmosphere yet, because people were still kind of getting into it, and but for anyone that's ever been to Virginia, if you know Richmond, anything dealing with Richmond and the area that Hampton's from, the 7-5, which is Hampton, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. It's called the 757 because it's 7 cities and they all share the same zip code. There's a big rivalry between any of the teams there. So like college football, for instance, it's VCU and Richmond for, of course, Richmond. And then down there in 7-5, or you have William and Mary, ODU, that kind of go back and forth. For instance, I went to Virginia State University, which is in Petersburg, but it's like a smaller city than Richmond. We had a big rivalry with Hampton and Norfolk State, who's, of course, our rivals. So there's always a rivalry between those two regions. It's always about who can be better. People down there kind of look at Richmond folks as being country and not the real capital of Virginia, while Richmond people kind of look at people down there in the Hampton region or the 7-5 as kind of being snooty and uptight. And,
so it's just like England then.
Yes, exactly. That's all it is. Everyone says, "Oh, you're like fake. England. You're not real."
Yeah, our listeners in England will definitely relate to that because they have kind of anybody in the north kind of looks exactly down on London, and the south is. In that exact same way, so it's funny. And one thing I did want to mention, you're kind of bringing it up there, is actually two things. I've always kind of seen Richmond as kind of an unknown soccer hotbed in the United States, if you will. You mentioned the Total Soccer guys earlier, and honestly, this show that we're on right now, our show Across the Pitch, wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for their show, because I listened to them, and I kind of said to my buddy Aaron, who's one of our co-founders, one day I said, I found this show that is really great where these guys, it's an American-based show talking about English soccer, but I really only found one show like that, and maybe we should kind of start one and talk about the lower league teams. And that's kind of the story of how we got started. And of course, they're based out of Richmond, and then with the history of the Kickers, and then everything that you're telling me with these town by town rivalries. It really is kind of a secret soccer town USA, if you will.
Yeah, it is. And first and foremost, like I think probably 60% of soccer podcasts would not have started if it wasn't for the Total Soccer Show. I tell them that all the time. Because honestly, if it wasn't for them, our show probably would have never started. And the funny thing is, when we did our first episode saying like, "Oh, hey, we're the podcast covering the Richmond Kickers," they tweeted out, hey, we have a big announcement about we're covering a certain team. And I was texting my co-host. I was like, yo, I really think they're about to start covering Richmond Kickers. And then the next day it came out that they were going to be doing pre and post game analysis for the Richmond Kickers, almost like their famous style of how they break down games for European soccer. So I was telling my coach, man, we probably gonna get no listeners, no fans, but it's all worked out. They've been great mentors to us, and they've been on our show a couple of times. We did an end of the season review with them, and we also did the U.S. Open Cup game breakdown with them, and they've been amazing. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast, I recommend listening to them.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that because they're actually how I first heard about your show about a year ago when they did that announcement. You were just talking about it. Yeah, I've got my my hello and welcome scarf hanging on my wall here in my office. Right now, actually, would probably be a good time for me to announce that I did actually just talk with Daryl last night, and on April 15th. He is going to come on our show to do an episode like this about the Wolves, where he's going to talk about Wolves culture and Wolves history. So that's April 15th. We're going to have Daryl on, so we're really looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be an amazing show. Daryl is the first ever person. And usually here in Richmond, you don't really get a lot of people that are fans outside of like the big six clubs or maybe like a German team here or Real Barca. Daryl was the first person I ever met that was like a fan of Wolves. And this is when Wolves were like just starting to be relevant again. Mm-hmm. So yeah, full hats off. Like if Wolves ever go on to win like the treble, I 100% will give Daryl like no slack about it. Like he 100% deserves it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, it was really their show that made me want to learn about more than just the Big Six and, him talking about the Wolves. And it was actually a listener question on their show that first made me hear of Accrington Stanley, and now I'm head of the North American Supporters Club. So how about that?
Oh, yeah, yo, ain't gonna lie, like it's very unique. Like I started off liking Manchester United, and I tell everyone this: like I'm a fan of Manchester United, but I'm a supporter of Richmond Kickers. And if I can go back and redo it, I still love Manchester United because of the players and whatnot. But I would say I would probably be a fan of either. I would probably be a Blackpool supporter, 100%.
Blackpool.
I would probably be a Blackpool supporter, 100%.
Nice. We had Brett Ormerod on about a year ago, so you'll definitely want to check that one out if you have an interest in Blackpool.
I definitely will. We have became interested in Blackpool. I'm pretty sure a lot of your listeners have heard of it, especially in England, of Copa 90. And they did They did a video on the history of Blackpool and kind of what's going on. And I was like, yo, I kind of like dig this. Like, I kind of respect 100% what they're doing. And ever since then, I just became a supporter of Blackpool, like a closet supporter of Blackpool. Like, I'm trying to find a kit that I can get shipped over here to me. So,
well, I'm sure that I can help you out with that because I know plenty of people at Lancashire. So I'm sure that I can get a Blackpool kit over here for you. And I mean, just to kind of give you my story, it's similar to yours. I actually started off as an Arsenal supporter, really just because I wanted to pick anybody except Manchester United. And then I started when the Phoenix Rising came here. I started going to their games, and that's when the sport really resonated with me because it wasn't just a TV show anymore. And then that's why I started to Accrington Stanley, and they became my first team. And I still watch every Arsenal game and support them. But to me, Premier League it's like a TV show. The grassroots is proper football, is what they call it in Northern England.
Yeah, and that's the thing about me. Like being born and raised in Richmond, so a lot of people in Richmond are fans of teams up in DC because we don't have any pro sports teams here in Virginia. Yeah. So like Redskins, the Washington Wizards, the Capitals, whoever any pro team. For me, for instance, like my favorite NFL team is Tennessee Titans. I live in Virginia, But when it came to soccer, having a pro team in my city represent where I'm from, I was like, yo, I'm 100% behind it. And the thing about it is, like, a lot of Richmond Kickers fans and supporters, and don't write, I hold nothing against them, but they're also fans of DC United, who is the MLS team in DC. For me, I don't really care about DC United because that's not, they don't represent my city or where I'm from,
It's amazing how much the things that you're saying, I mean, this episode is just going to resonate so much in Accrington, because in Accrington, they have Blackburn and Burnley 5 miles on either side. So they're trapped between these two huge clubs, Blackburn and Burnley at either side. And there's some people that, they'll like Accrington as their second team, but they ultimately support Blackburn and Burnley. And it's the people that are like, no, Accrington, I don't care about Burnley. You would be an Accrington fan if you lived there. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing weird about it is, because I was telling someone before, and they were like, yo, why are you a Richmond Kickers fan? Like, you got DC United. Like, for instance, Charlotte's about to get an MLS club, I think 2021 or 2022. My wife is from Charlotte. I love Charlotte. Would I go watch the Charlotte MLS game? Yes. Charlotte also have the Charlotte Independence. And I was telling her, I'm like, when this MLS team comes about, it's really going to hit hard with the lower league soccer of those who support Charlotte Independence. For instance, Soccer Goose on Twitter, he is a Charlotte Independence fan. And it's going to be hard for him because he's like, yo, my lower league team might be gone because the MLS team is coming in. And people don't think about it when they're like, oh, these pro teams and I want to support this big club, but they don't take time to recognize like these lower league teams that are here that are doing the hard work instead of those things. Because honestly, without Richmond Kickers, the soccer scene in Virginia is very different. It's 100% different. We've had some great players in our history, such as Dwayne Di Rosario or Sasha Gores, Rob Ucrop. A lot of DC United players got their start here and then went up to DC United player like Chris Cord, players like that. So without Richmond, I know what my team is. And when you're a fan of a lower division team, especially in America, you have to understand what your team is. I know my team is never going to be an international power. I know that the likelihood of us being an MLS probably is not going to happen unless we get like a multi-millionaire owner who just injects money into the club and then we bypass League One championship. I know my team is a youth club setup. We flip players. I know that. I'm comfortable with that. Will that ever make me stop supporting Richmond? No. If Richmond decides to come up with a press conference and be like, because of what's happening with coronavirus, we have to go play in USL League One. We have to go play in NPSL, UPSL, or NISA, or, our local semi-pro league here in Virginia. I will still 100% support Richmond to the day I die. Like, that's not going to change. I'm not going to just be like, oh, well,
I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because so American sports fans in general just have a different mentality than the rest of the world. And I always kind of say to people that if you like other sports, but you haven't gotten into soccer yet, the first thing you're going to have to do is accept that the United States is probably never going to win the World Cup, and then get into it, because there's so many front runners here that only want to root for the top team, the Yankees, or the Lakers, whoever it would be. In England, you root for whoever your hometown is. If you're somebody that lives in Portsmouth and you root for Liverpool, they'll call you plastic.
and that's the thing. Here in the United States, the fan culture is a little bit different. I would say in places like England, Spain, Italy, it's a little bit more of homerism. Like, this is my home. I'm going to defend where I'm from. Mm-hmm. But here in America, it's very hard to do that because if you're not in one of the big 10 cities, Chicago, Dallas, New York, LA, Atlanta, Denver, one of those big cities, you're not really going to have a pro team or a professional team that you can say, like, this is my home, this is where I'm supporting. It's kind of much more of where I'm at into the state, or is my, state close to it. The only sport that you get close to almost what England has, I say, it's college football and college basketball.
Yeah, oh yeah, much closer, much closer.
Yeah, because I went to
if somebody went to Creighton, for instance, so they're going to root for Creighton for their whole lives. They're not going to go and root for North Carolina and Duke. Yeah.
No. And I mean, like growing up, I was a Georgetown fan, and the reason why I was a Georgetown fan is because I grew up loving Allen Iverson and Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo and all those guys, and Ozzie Porter, all those guys. But then I went to college, and I went to Virginia State University, and my school is not a Division I. We're not Division I AA. We're Division II. And even when it comes to like in a football season or March Madness, I don't even look at college basketball anymore like that because I'm so focused on Virginia State, and that's my college where I went to. I'm going to support them a lot more. But when it comes to like pro sports, the way how I fell in love with my basketball team, my football team, is a lot more of I just happened to watch them at the right moment, and I just stuck with it. And I'm pretty sure you can ask 20 people that are here in America, and it's kind of like the same story. Like, oh, I just watched it with my dad, and since he was a Cowboys fan, I just fell in love with it. Or my dad happened to be a fan of the Houston Rockets, so I just stuck with it. That's the way how I kind of works.
Exactly. And the thing is you mentioned unless you live in that big city and not having the top level pro teams, sometimes it can be kind of the blessing in disguise. Because I live here in Phoenix, and we have Phoenix Rising, and honestly, I personally don't care if we ever get an MLS team or not, because I pay $20 a month for my season tickets, and I can afford that. I know that if I was, I like to tell a story that I was about 15 when the Phoenix Coyotes, now the Arizona Coyotes hockey team, moved here. Before that, we had the Phoenix Roadrunners, who were in the second division. And, I was like 15 years old, $5 a ticket to go to the Roadrunners games. I was there every night that they had a game. Coyotes moved to town. I just couldn't afford to go anymore. I mean, it's sometimes having that top level team, it just prices out the hardcore fan, and you're better off having that grassroots team that you can build that community with.
Exactly. And I mean, the other thing about it too is, I mean, granted, everyone here in America wants pro rel, and I'm more, if you have any sensible person, yes, everyone in America wants pro rel.
Right.
That's how they want it. But it's all about how we approach it and how we go about it in the right manner. For me, for instance, like, I think you're going to have to, MLS and order to have pro, you're going to have to get rid of a single entity. And that's probably not going to happen anytime soon because,
they make too much, $250 million
loss. Yeah. It's too much loss if you get rid of pro rel than if you be like, all right, no one single entity. And that's kind of like the thing that my biggest gripe against MLS. Do I like MLS? Yes, 100% I do. But it's just the way how some things are desensitized there, like how every club has the same exact jersey design, or how every club kind of the jerseys don't seem unique enough. I mean, granted, I'm a Richmond Kickers fan. Our jerseys are not that's unique. But at the same token, it's like
basically if it was Star Wars, MLS would be the Empire. Everybody's had that same stormtrooper.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Like even for instance, like you look at Inter Miami, the concept design that Inter Miami was going to have was going to go like I was waiting for them to have the all white kit because that was really like this is my ultimate goal for Inter Miami was to have them like the Scarface of MLS and an all-white kit, telling players that, hey, you can't wear anything else besides a white shoe because I was going to have that white jersey known as the cocaine jersey. And then have like a strip club put in the stadium. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But, MLS, you can't do that. But that's a different story for a different day.
I mean, that's one thing that we talk about with Phoenix Rising is that our merchandising here is we like to think that it's at the top of the U.S. game, and that if we went to MLS, we wouldn't be able to have players designing hats and things like we do.
Yeah, it's a lot of things that when you go up to MLS, it is no gripe of its own. For us, our podcast, it wouldn't be the same because of the access that we have to the front office. I'm not going to be able to go to the front office and be like, hey, you guys aren't representing the black culture well enough. How can we fix this? Or I can't just talk to players because I'm going to have to go talk to the front office to get permission. Or if I want to do a front office interview, I have to go to the league office and then I have to go to the front office. You know, it's not that same level of access. It's not, you know, their players, you know, it's not like players
it's like
coming out and hanging out with us.
It's like for Accrington Stanley, Andy Holt, who's the owner of Accrington Stanley, has actually been on our show before, and I don't think Stan Kroenke or Arthur Blake is going to be coming on anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that's no fault of their own, but you guys, like, people also have to realize, like, these guys, they pretty much run other businesses out. Like, this is like their playtime. You know, they're not really making their ends meet based off this team. This is kind of like, oh, you know, I had a couple $1 million spent in the sofa, so I'm going to buy this sports team. You know,
right.
These Richmond Kickers owners, this is their lifeblood. You know, the Kickers fail, they're out of a job.
Yeah, it's kind of like the story you hear from Luton Town, where lifelong friends all got together and invested and bought the club, and it's those kind of teams and those kinds of stories that are just so unique and make me love this sport more than anything. And that the Kickers are definitely one of those teams. And I know we've gotten quite a bit off topic here from just talking about the Kickers, but I think this has just been a fantastic discussion. But before we wrap up, was there anything Kickers related that we hadn't talked about that you wanted to make sure we got in?
I would just tell people, if you're looking to become a fan of the Richmond Kickers, honestly, I say you would love it. And one of the things that I want my podcast to do, and you know, the supporters group, we have 2 supporters groups now, Scuffle Town Social Club and the River City Red Army. And, you know, all 3 of us, we want to grow the fan base of the Richmond Kickers. We're not looking to become your only club. We're looking to become one of your favorite clubs. One of the teams that you look for, like, yo, I wonder what the Kickers are up to. And that's one of the things we're looking forward to doing. We want to grow, you know, we want to grow the fan base. We want to know, like, I know I have some listeners in the Brighton and Newcastle area of England. If there are fans, hit us up on Twitter, man. We are looking for people from all over the globe. You know, if you are a fan of the Kickers or like something we do, let us know. We are 100%. Like, when we say we are 100% support a run, we are support a run. We ask our supporters all the time. If you have a question, let us know. If you have an idea for a show, let us know. We would love to do it. One of the shows that we're about to do, one of our fans suggested it to us, is kind of a Richmond Kickers all-time draft, where me, my co-host, and one of our other good friends, Matt Myers, we're just going to sit down and pretty much draft our top 11 of Kickers players of all time. And, you know, get fan engagement on and let the fans vote, see who has the best 11.
That's awesome. One of the podcasts here in town, AZ Soccer Radio, just did something similar with Phoenix Rising players. And that was so much fun. And Elliot or Yogi, whichever you folks want to go by, thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been fantastic. We're definitely going to have to do this again. Before we wrap up, I did want to make sure that we tell people one of the best soccer-related Twitter accounts you can follow is at River City 93. You can find Elliot at Yogi McLovin, and the podcast itself. Like I said, I found it on Apple Music earlier and subscribed. You search for River City 93, or they're on Spotify or anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. And personally, I'm a Phoenix Rising fan, so USL League One, I like Phoenix Rising and hate every other team. USL League One, I love every team, so Richmond Kickers are one of my favorite teams. I also really like the logo with the pinball retro look to it. That's one of my favorite crests. So I like the Kickers, and want to see you guys have lots of success going forward.
We thank you, man.